All right, Chris, it's hard to think that the season ended actually less than 2 weeks ago, but it feels like an eternity for the Carolina Panthers since their season ended. And not going to lie,
it's been peaceful.
Happening.
It's been peaceful.
It kind of has been. It's like,
I am at peace right now.
Have you slept well? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I haven't slept well, but that's mostly because of my job. But I am at peace for the most part right now in my life, and it feels good.
Well, it's good to know that Chris can lay his head down on the pillow every single night knowing that this season's over. Let's get this sucker started.
The state of North Carolina covers 53,000 square miles. It is the habitat of the feared Carolina Panthers. Get dialed in, Panthers fans, for an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews, locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Like we told you guys during the regular season, make sure you subscribe here on 99.9 The Fans YouTube page or on your favorite podcast platform. We're going to be there because we're going to have some episodes for you throughout the entire offseason, including right now, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, because right now the Carolina Panthers are in a head coaching search, Chris, and also a general manager search as of right now. And Dan Graziano of ESPN on Wednesday of this week wrote an article on ESPN.com giving his predictions on who the next coach is going to be for each of the teams with head coach openings. The name Brian Callahan was the one that he chose for the Carolina Panthers. That's his prediction. Brian Callahan has been the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals since 2019. Now, Zach Taylor, their head coach, is the play caller, but nonetheless, Brian Callahan, he's interviewed with the team. He should have an in-person interview coming up here soon, but that's his prediction. I don't know how I feel about it, Chris, because whomever you choose still has to work with David Tepper.
You know, the last two hires, you know, I guess as a Panthers fan, I talked myself into liking it because I was trying to trust the process and trust what David Tepper saw. But let's be real. There hasn't been a splash head coaching hire, honestly, for the Carolina Panthers since Ron Rivera. Like there's not anything really to be excited about with anybody that's been brought in. And so it feels like we're headed towards that direction once again, that it's going to be like, okay, this guy's the head coach now. and you know what? Wow. Look at Ben Johnson doing great over there in LA. Like, oh man, this is great. Good job for you, Ben Johnson. It just feels like that's what's going to happen. And, you know, Bill Belichick is probably going to be in Atlanta and we're going to have to see him twice a year. And, you know, so yeah, it just feels like that's where we are.
And I don't blame fans for being like, okay, that's our next head coach, because the last couple that have been hired, it's been like, okay, like Matt Rule didn't work out. Frank Reich obviously didn't work out. So guess what? Fans are going to be skeptical, and you have 100% reason to do it. I'm going to be skeptical on whomever the next head coach is, even if it is Ben Johnson, because guess what? He's unproven. You know, obviously he's like the offensive guru, and he's helped resurrect, you know, Jared Goff's career in Detroit, but he's unproven as a head coach. Can he handle as a head coach? He certainly could do it as an offensive coordinator, but to be determined. But whomever that next coach is, David Tepper's going to have to recruit them. It's not like, hey, we've got this great opportunity where everyone wants. Like, a lot of people are going to want the LA Chargers job. A lot of people are going to want the Washington Commanders job. Well, Bill Belichick's floating around out there. Ben Johnson, we just mentioned. Jim Harbaugh is floating around out there. Sorry, like, you're dead last on the list right now, Carolina Panthers. Yeah. So whomever that coach is, you have to recruit them. Like, you have to sell them on being the coach of this team. Simple as that.
Every other situation has some advantage that's better than the Carolina Panthers. Let's just be honest. And
by far,
if the Cowboys and Eagles happen to come open, I don't think they should. But if they were, since you know that's a lot of the talk around the sports world, my God, I mean, that just makes it even harder, because now, like, you really are like moved down further down to the bottom of the rung. You don't have a first round draft pick. You have the quarterback, and that is probably, depending on how you look at Bryce Young and what he did at Alabama and what you feel like the position he was in this year, you know, maybe that's a positive for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe somebody looks at him and says, 5'10", 195 pounds. I can go to LA and get Justin Herbert. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'd rather go up against Patrick Mahomes every year, twice a year, than to go over here and work with this. So it's really a sad position. I mean, even the Washington Commanders to me are in a
Oh,
better position because of
yes.
some of the young pieces they have on offense. And it's to me, it's not like Sam Howell's bad. He just needs a little bit more to work with. He needs protection and he needs maybe a couple more weapons, but he has some decent receivers if they can stay healthy, which is the issue. But yeah, it's just that the job is the least attractive just based on the roster and the
Oh,
situation.
yeah.
Then you add in David Tepper, and then it's like, I don't know, man. And then you're gonna have to go coach in probably an empty stadium until you start winning.
Yeah, or one that's going to be full of the opposing team's fans. Because let's be real, the Kansas City Chiefs coming to town this upcoming season. The Dallas Cowboys are coming back. It's going to be a lot of visiting fans right now, unless things turn around fast. And whomever this coach is has to be sold on Bryce. Simple as that. Because
Yeah,
if I'm a potential head coach and I'm like, when I was evaluating this guy coming out of the draft last year, I wasn't sold on him. Why would I then choose to coach him? That's the thing as well. And yeah, Washington is super attractive in the sense of you have the number 2 pick. So you could take Drake May or Caleb Williams, whomever is right there. Like, I get my franchise quarterback. They also have pick 34 in the draft as well, and another second round pick this season. And then they also have 2 third-round picks this year. It's like I have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds of this year's draft, 5 picks in the top 100. What's not attractive? Where you look at Carolina, you have pick 33 next year, but you go to 2025 draft, you have a first, but you don't have a second. So it's like, how do you expect to build a roster for the future? And that's also for a general manager coming in as well. Like, is Adam Peters that got hired from San Francisco over to Washington? He's like,
yeah,
this is great. This is a great situation. I was like, I get
yeah.
all these good picks. Like, that's an ideal spot because there's also no Dan Snyder there anymore. So
You got Magic
there's
Johnson. Like,
exactly
how much better of a setup can you get? How much better of a setup can you possibly get?
And then if you're Atlanta, like you have the 8th pick overall again this season, the only thing you really need is a quarterback because you have first round pick at wide receiver, you have first round pick at tight end, you have a first round pick at running back. And it's a pretty good roster. They just need a quarterback is the only thing that they need. You can go free agent route or Jalen Daniels falls to you. Like, Atlanta's super attractive. Bill Belichick's interviewed over there. And then, yeah, you have the LA Chargers. Like, oh, I get Justin Herbert as my quarterback, proven and still young. Yeah, what's there to go on? What is there to go on if you're Carolina? Because everything else that's in front of them is so much more attractive than what they currently than what Carolina has to offer. So yeah, you have to recruit that next head coach.
And here's another thing with Atlanta too. It is a place where you have a newer stadium and a newer facility and things like that. Like with the Panthers, they were supposed to get a newer facility, and it looks like that's not going to happen. So it looks like it's going to be the same facility that's been there since 1997, since they moved in.
Yeah, late 90s,
so like it's kind of like where's the momentum? What is there to look forward to? Because I believe that this upcoming year would have been the year that the new facility should have been finished in Rock Hill. So at least there would have been something to hang your hat on, like, oh, we're going to have a new facility, even if you don't have the draft picks. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's literally nothing to hang your hat on. And no disrespect to Bryce, but also like now the way the picks are starting to look, it's like you traded away DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, and whatever else for Bryce Young.
Carter,
and do you believe that Bryce Young can elevate himself over all of those guys? It's possible. I don't know if it's likely, and again, that's nothing against Bryce Young personally. I do think he is a starter in the NFL right now. And I do think he will have a decent NFL career at least, right? He could end up being great, but that's still yet to be seen. But what is very much so clear is if we're using the Cam Newton system of rating things, he's a game manager. He's going to need things around him to succeed. He can't take it up. Like prime Cam Newton takes this same roster and does more than what Bryce Young was able to do.
Oh, for sure.
That is super unfair to Bryce because a lot of it has to do with stature and physical ability, and he can't help what he doesn't have. But at the same time, you're going to have to get everything right around him, which is what he had in Alabama when you have 5 stars all around you. The Carolina Panthers don't have NFL level 5 stars all around him, and they don't have the ability to get a bunch of NFL level 5 stars around him for the 2024 season.
Well, there's a lot of NFL level 4 and 5-star former Carolina Panthers people around the NFL right now. And
if you used to be a Carolina Panther, you are having the time of your life right now. Oh my God, this is the best time of your life.
Congrats,
Brandon
Frank
Bean.
That's the thing. Like you look at the playoffs this past weekend. Look for example, Buffalo. A lot of people say, "Oh, Buffalo built themselves like the Carolina Panthers." Well, that's funny. They're having success right now because they're built themselves like the Carolina Panthers were when they went to the Super Bowl back
former
eight seasons ago
from the Panthers.
Brandon Bean,
former defensive coordinator,
who's now the head coach. Sean McDermott, now their head coach, used to be the defensive coordinator when the Panthers went to the Super Bowl. Sean McDermott, now the head coach up in Buffalo. Guess what? They drafted a quarterback that's very similar to Cam Newton in terms of how they play, how they're built, and everything. The general manager, Brandon Bean, up there, was with the Panthers organization since 1998, was part of the staff, not only with Dave Gettleman, Marty Herney, both times, but guess what? Dave Gettleman goes somewhere else, not successful. Marty Herney goes somewhere else, not successful. But Brandon Bean, where he's been, doing a pretty freaking good job. And also Rasul Douglas, who was with the Carolina Panthers for a short bit. I know he didn't play against the Steelers this past weekend due to injury, but he was pretty solid down the stretch for Buffalo as the season progressed on. It's like, wait a second. Oh, there you go,
DJ
Christian
Moore
McCaffrey.
had a good season.
Oh, just look at the playoffs. Like Christian McCaffrey had the best season. Was the best player, you could say, for the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Yeah.
Oh, and who's their defensive coordinator? Steve Wilkes. It's like all this other stuff stacking up. So you think about what could have been, and then you're like, look what CJ Stroud just did in his debut. And then you're like, the season that Shane Steichen had. I know the Colts didn't make the playoffs, but like you only went one interview with Shane Steichen, and he didn't even do a second one. And look, he went 9-8 this past season with Gardner Minshew.
Here's another thing that you could talk about with Buffalo when it comes down to Carolina Panthers. They took a lot of former Carolina Panthers like defensive players and basically let that be like the heart and soul of their defense when Brandon Bean went up there for the first like 2-3 years. And then once they got old enough, like Star Lotulelei, Vernon Butler, others, and then all of a sudden they got too old, and then you set what you have with those guys, and now they're just off and running. So now you have a new set. Like it's just wild to me. And for David Tepper to look at that and to ignore that there are people who used to be Carolina Panthers, because he wants to put his own stamp on the organization so badly. But it's like, bro, you bought a company that had a good thing going. All you got to do is build on top of that. You didn't have to strip it down. Like it's just like somebody buying McDonald's and saying, I don't want to call it the Carolina Panthers McDonald's, but like it's somebody buying Burger King, for instance. And it's a step down from McDonald's, step down from the elite. But you're like, you know what we should do? No Whopper. Like what? What? Yeah, this is what we're known for. What are you talking about?
It's like Wendy's not selling Frosties. Like what are we doing?
I'm gonna buy Wendy's, and the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fire Frosties.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm Arby's, no curly fries. Like it's that kind of thing. Like what works for you. Like make it work. Like imagine McDonald's got rid of the McRib. Like, and they've done that multiple times, but they got rid of their French fries or whatever.
I'm gonna buy Sonic, no drive-in, all dine-in.
Exactly. Hey, we're Hardee's. No more chicken. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, Carl's Jr. did that. No. Carl's Jr. did that.
And look what happened.
That is a North Carolina deep cut if I ever heard one.
Exactly.
Right there, because my God, they should not have gotten rid of chicken.
They never.
I'm a vegan saying that.
Exactly. That's true. He's plant-based. Chris Lea is, but nonetheless, it's been consistent over the last several years that the Carolina Panthers in their organization have not been able to evaluate their own talent or just talent in general, whether it's in their own building or outside of it. They have failed to do so, and that's the reason why they're in the position that they're in. They failed to evaluate talent, and they also have a culture that's, let's be honest, it's terrible. It's terrible. So yeah, you can throw money around at people, but I know if I can make money in other places and be successful at the same time, other places are more attractive to me. Simple as that. If you're simply chasing the bag, then the Carolina Panthers are there for you.
You know, it's something else that's just kind of like, it's mind blowing as well. Not only is David Tepper kind of ignoring what the Carolina Panthers already had, it's like he came from McDonald's to buy Burger King and still
McDonald's
didn't even
being the
bring
Pittsburgh
over
Steelers.
McDonald's stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't even bring over Pittsburgh Steelers stuff with you. So, like, what was the whole point of even, being there and learning under the Rooney family when you were a minority owner with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, you didn't even bring over any of their stuff. And, like, it's like you're supposed to take the good things and bring it over. Like, he's just somebody that clearly feels like he has the best ideas for everything. So his ideas only will be implemented. I'm sorry, but even the best of the best have to remix some things from time to time to get to where they need to get to. Lay that solid foundation, then start putting your stank on it. You didn't lay a foundation. There was no foundation. I'm just...
Yeah, they try to do the rebuild without hitting rock bottom. Like
disrupting.
They tried to avoid it. They try to skip 4 steps. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If this past season, if it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back with the franchise in terms of like Bryce's progression, like, okay, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. At least you're slowly making progress.
Yeah.
They didn't do any of that. They didn't do any of that at all at any point during the season. And it's frustrating, but maybe they'll find the right general manager that can come in and rebuild this roster. Maybe David Tepper will have the moment of like, you know what, I should step back. Maybe they hire the right head coach that can actually build and develop Bryce Young, to be determined on all fronts. And you know what? I'm going to be skeptical until I see it. Simple as that. I'm going to be skeptical until I see it.
Are the listeners going to call you negative? Are they going to call me negative?
You know what? That's fine. You know what? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you think we're being too negative, that's fine. Because honestly, there's nothing positive really to build on right now. Like, show me the positive. Other than like a few moments, like Derek Brown, we've said it multiple times, awesome freaking season. Keep that guy for the rest of his career if you can.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard was a bright spot the last half of this year. Adam Thielen, a bright spot this season.
Yeah.
Brian Burns, I liked his potential in the future. This season was a little bit of a down year, but you know what? You could say that across the board. And I love Frankie Louvu's versatility and what he can bring to this team.
He admitted the contract situation was in the back of his mind.
Yeah.
And he was afraid to go too hard so he wouldn't get injured. So he was not playing at 100%. And I 100% get that. Let's sign him, get that out of his head so he knows he has guaranteed money. And so we can have full force Brian Burns along with Derek Brown on that defensive line.
Yeah. There's a lot. I love J.C. Horn's play. He just, unfortunately, he's injured too much. There are things I love about this team, but they're few and far between. That's the point.
Johnny Hekker punts the heck out of that ball.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. But here's the thing. I only want to see Johnny Hekker on the field holding for kicks. That's the only time I ever want to see Johnny Hekker. Because guess what?
But if he has to be, because a lot of times he does have to be, at least where, he's given good field position to the defense.
Elite. Yeah.
Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. We're going to have, again, throughout the course of the offseason, leading up to the draft, free agency, when the new coach gets hired, new general manager gets hired, all that. We're going to have stuff for you throughout the entire offseason. So, again, make sure you subscribe and follow. Again, hit that like button as well. Leave the comments and a 5-star review if you're on your favorite podcast platform. Chris, stay warm. It's cold out, man.
Very cold. It's a lot of black ice outside.
Ooh, scary.
Huh?
See you next time.